The second Dark Soul of nightreign, the Everdark Sovereign, Fulgor Nightglow. I think I actually said all those right things, besides the meme of Dark Souls. But this guy, pretty interesting. He actually feels easier than the Gaping Jaw new variant. But he's kind of neat. He turns his sword into like a twin blade, and he can shoot arrows with it and stuff. I don't know. Pretty neat. I took him down a few times. Definitely think he's a little bit easier, at least compared to the Gaping Jaw variant of the Everdark Sovereign. I think the reason it's pretty easy comparatively is he doesn't have some massive different gimmick like Gaping Jaw has with the big tornado. Instead, he just kind of goes, hey, I'm gonna get rid of my wacko arm and just transform my sword, basically. And it's still cinema, don't get me wrong, but it's not as much of a change, so the fight doesn't feel as different. So after having fought the original variant quite a number of times, it doesn't seem all that difficult in comparison. Especially if you just kind of stick to its ass. As long as you're behind it and you hug its ass, it can't really hit you with a lot of its attacks. It makes the fight relatively trivial. I also used a lightning weapon on it, and I didn't really see any benefit to doing so. I think in the normal version it usually gets like a defense debuff or something. Maybe I'm wrong in that regard, but I know it did more damage, but it just didn't look like there was any significant bonus to having lightning damage. I mean, think Gaping Jaw having poison, especially against the Sovereign version, doesn't really do anything because the poison only affects phase 1, and the Sovereign only starts in phase 2. Poison is just useless. It's just something you can more easily inflict upon it, but it doesn't have that stun effect like in phase 1. But then you look at something like the Tricephalos one with Gladius, and you hit him with holy damage, and he'll get the defense debuff and stuff, and it's like, okay, there's an actual incentive to use the weakness outside of just having a little more damage. The same thing happens with the final Night Lord. If you use holy damage, he'll get the defense debuff if you hit him enough. And it seems like most bosses have some kind of actual weakness you can exploit with it, with their corresponding weakness, I mean. But for this guy, it's just, he takes a little extra lightning damage. I didn't proc any sort of debuff or anything, and that was it. I found this boss to actually be one of the tougher ones outside of its Sovereign version, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think it's the arm is so goofy and weird when it goes into phase 2. A lot of the moves feel like they're hard to sort of see where the hitbox is going to be and what's going to exactly happen. And usually when you start spamming a lot of his AoE attacks, or like the swords coming out of the ground, the light pillars and everything, it gets kind of difficult to deal with it. There's just so much happening. But this variant, I didn't have any of those problems. I fought him I think 3 or 4 times, and I didn't run into any of that kind of spam or craziness going on. The only real difference was he kind of dropped the crazy AoE nonsense in favor of just more melee attacks, which in my opinion makes things a lot easier. Especially, like I said, if you just stick to its ass, it can't do anything. You just stay behind him. Normal Dark Souls logic, he's not really going to do much to you. Even like his massive AoE arrow attack, you just run away. You run out of the explosion radius, you're good. You can even just run towards him, get behind him before he drops back on the ground, and it seems like you're out of the radius. The radius isn't huge, it's really easy to get out of. The fight just seems relatively easy. I might even say phase 3 is easier than phase 2, weird enough, which I couldn't say the same about Gaping Jaw. That has the whole tornado gimmick and a whole bunch more lightning going on and just kind of craziness. You have to be more aware of your surroundings overall. This fight, it feels like, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You just look at the guy and you fight him, and as long as you just kind of time your rolls right, you got it. But in the Gaping Jaw fight, it's like, hey, you gotta kind of maneuver around the lightning, and you gotta be careful where you're positioned. You don't want to get too close to the cyclone. You don't want to get caught in his massive AoEs, which, even if you're in the right positioning, can be a little more challenging to get out of the way if you don't have stamina for it, or if you're not playing something like Wild Earth, you can just grappling hook out. So yeah, this new Everdark Sovereign, Dark Soul, Fulgor, Sunglow, Moonlight guy, kind of easy, if I'm being honest. He's not all that hard. There's not a whole lot changed between his normal variant and his special version, so it kind of feels like a free 25 of those dark runes or whatever the hell they call them. You know, go get yourself a skin with it or something. Makes it a lot easier to also farm it when you can kind of get there relatively easily and then kind of just take them down relatively easily, blah blah blah. I've only done it solo. I don't know if in co-op the massive HP pool makes this like a way harder fight or something, but I imagine you have some recluses or revenants with lightning spells, and all of a sudden that he's just gonna get shredded even faster. So cool fight, I like it, but not all that difficult. I'm waiting to see when they drop something that really pushes players to their limits, you know. But yeah, that's it. New thing in Elden Ring nightreign. Alright, bye.